Hajime, welcome back to Comic-Jutsu. I'm J. Tim McRoberts, and today I'm very happy to be joined once again by our special guest, Phil K.
What's going on, Comic-Jutsu people?
Welcome back, Phil K. It's exciting to have you back in the comic book dojo with us once again, and we're going to look at a series of books that are near and dear to both of our hearts. The Uncanny X-Men, specifically around the 1984, 83, 85 era, because I know, like you, these were some of the first comic books that we encountered, some of the first X-Men comics. We're going to look at what Jim Ross would call a slobber knocker of a fight today. Up till now on the Comic Book Dojo, we've mostly broken down fighting styles and one or two fight scenes here or there. But this issue, it's just one fight. It's short and sweet, but it is very emotionally charged, very dramatic, very powerful, part of a great storyline, and it's really peak X-Men at its best. I had a friend, like most people do when you're growing up, somebody has comic books, and I was not buying them at the time. I mean, I bought maybe G.I. Joe, but, you know, I would watch Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, all that kind of stuff on TV. So you would slowly learn about these different characters, because before then, I mean, I didn't really know who the X-Men were. That was not a household superhero group, you know. But then you had those two classic, or maybe even three episodes where the X-Men popped in and out of The Amazing Spider-Man.
Spider-Man Amazing Friends?
Mm-hmm. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, yeah. You had the X-Men Adventures, and then like the origin of Firestar.
And the origin of Iceman.
And I think there was one more. Was that the other one where they had more X-Men on it?
That one that had like the classic ones with, you know, the original X-Men showed like the Beast, you know, in the yellow and blue costumes, and then you had the other one that had the new X-Men when they were in the mansion.
That was the X-Men Adventure. Right. Yeah, I remember that. But I think it was the origin of Firestar is when Juggernaut appeared.
Exactly.
Nothing can stop the Juggernaut. I love how Spider-Man knows him at the beginning of it. There's this whole, you know, shared universe, lived-in universe aspect to those Marvel stories that was a lot of fun. So I came across this book in the stack of comics in this box in the closet that my buddy had, and he had inherited most of these from his brother who went off to school, you know. And I remember just flipping through these, and I go, "Oh, I remember this." No, not Colossus. Colossus wasn't in the cartoons. They had Thunderbird in that one episode, right? Thunderbird with Nightcrawler. Yeah, but Juggernaut was in there. I was like, "Oh, this guy looks cool." But I knew who Colossus was because of Secret Wars. And this happens, you know, chronologically after Secret Wars, but I think it was released concurrent with.
Okay.
So there are things that happen in this story that come from Secret Wars that I don't think have actually been printed at the time of this story. So you have to kind of follow Secret Wars to get into it.
Because this is after this post-Secret Wars.
Yes, this is chronologically, it's post-Secret Wars, right, but it's being published concurrently.
Exactly.
So I thought I would bring a few of these just to share the covers in honor of the late, great Dan Green, who took over inking chores here with 179, working with John Romita Jr. So as much as we love the John Byrne run and you know, later runs like Mark Silvestri or Jim Lee, and even the Paul Smith run after Byrne, or Dave Cockrum even. I mean, they all have their strengths. I'll just name them all. How's that go? The John Romita Jr. era was my first X-Men group, you know, and it had its ups and it had its downs, you know, because it was kind of scary. That's one thing that Romita says about his X-Men run, is that people didn't like him on X-Men because his women were scary.
They're both they were like masculine. Yeah, you know what I mean? He's like bulky, and they're not as feminine as some of the other.
Yeah, artists. And plus you had the appearance of Punk Aurora, which took some getting used to, and the hairstyles. Here we go. right here, this is where the women were getting kind of scary. It's like, as a kid looking at this, you're like, what am I look? What is this? What is happening here? Why are these women dressed like this? They're not great costumes. I mean, this is,
Right.
real S&M kind of stuff. But this was really the classic run that I kept going back to and dipping into because my buddies, we'll probably cover this fight on a future episode of the Comic Book Dojo. I kept going back to it because my buddy's parents wouldn't let him buy X-Men anymore. And I think because of these, because you have
Right.
half naked, S&M
Bikini
dressed women on there. So for me, this was actually the first issue I grabbed off the shelf was this. I remember seeing, much earlier, but it wasn't until Doctor Doom was on the cover and I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this because up until now I had been, I don't know, I'm going back and forth and hemming and hawing.
It's been so long since I read it. Is that Doctor Doom or that Robot Doom?
Yes, spoilers, that is a robot. I didn't know that until I got home and read it. I was like, oh man, what a ripoff. It's not even really Doctor Doom. So anyway, I'm bringing a selection. The combo of John Romita Jr. and Dan Green drops out for an issue here or there, which is why you don't see those issues here in the lineup. But for me, this was really the classic run. But, it definitely started to get a bit unfocused, after this.
Mutant Massacre?
Yeah, after the Mutant Massacre, that whole bit. So, and we were talking off camera about the fights here with the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I mean, these were the ones that really drew me in. This because of the action, okay? And you had, not show off too big of spoilers, but we were left with this cliffhanger on one issue, and you're like, oh my God, this was back before we realized comic book superheroes don't die. We didn't know back then that
You're kids.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
we didn't know back then that they'll just come back later and it'll be like nothing ever happened.
Except for Thunderbird and Jean.
Yeah.
Well, technically Jean died.
She comes and goes.
Phoenix.
Anyway. But it was this issue and these Morlock, the Freedom Force or Brotherhood of Evil Mutants issues and the Morlock issues that all kind of pulled me in. And the thing that was strange about this is because even as a kid, I was really drawn to it, even though I didn't know completely who all these characters were. Not even sure I realized that was Wolverine at the time because he's never in costume in this whole entire issue. Yeah. No one is really in costume, but you can't help but be drawn in by the nuance and subtlety of John Romita Jr.'s line, and here you can see greatly accented and augmented by Dan Green's ink.
And the coloring, look at the coloring, man.
Yeah, coloring, Glennis Wine, who's Len Wein's wife. And yeah, just great coloring through here. But there's just the artwork, even of just two people talking, just plain old talking heads, just draws you in. So we were talking about earlier, the storyline is that Peter has just come back from Secret Wars, and he's bummed out because this alien chick, who I think must have given him his first bit of action, died. She died on Secret Wars World, and he's bummed out about it. He's too busy thinking about it.
Well, he was a teenager.
Right.
He's like 16, 17 years old. So
is he that young? He looks older than that.
Well, they supposedly when he joined, he was a teenager. That's why Kitty related to him because she was like 13, 14 or something like that. And so he's a little bit older, but they're both still teens. So that's why they became close. So he's a teenager.
Okay, I never knew he was quite that young. But yeah, so this is really peak X-Men because you have what is essentially just a boring romance story. What should be a B plot is really made the central plot line. And these things are supported by just emotional gravitas that is created through seeing their relationship unfold and their attraction unfold in earlier issues. And actually, it's all set up by these earlier Morlock issues. It builds off of this storyline where he was essentially all but dead, and Kitty has to make a deal with the Morlocks to get their healer to heal him. And then, yes, something very similar happens on Secret Wars world. So she makes a sacrifice herself to help him out. And all of this, though this is peak X-Men, it's also peak Claremont, where he's completely melodramatic. Like, the thought balloons are kind of hilarious. You know, they're almost like a Lichtenstein painting. You know, tell me it's a joke. Tell me anything but the truth. Trouble is, you're too honorable to lie. That's one of the things I love about you. It's just so sweeping and melodramatic and just over the top. But the artwork sells it. You know, the building of this storyline over the year leading into it sells it. Romita and Dan Green are just a great combo here. It's interesting seeing, I never noticed this before, but I know when we broke down Wolverine #1, how they had a lot of that negative space where the panels didn't fill, you know, they didn't completely chop up the page in just a typical 4 or 6 panel grid. You have a lot of extra negative space. But this was the glory of X-Men at the time, was just that Claremont could weave these subplots in and out and drop a little hint for a page or two, and then make it pay off, you know, a few issues down the road.
Also,
and here we go.
See Romita as a storyteller. You can just follow the story, you know, in terms of what's happening. He's a great storyteller.
Yeah, you no word balloons necessary. I mean, you can completely just follow everything that happened. He's a big believer in photo reference. So for every one of these, he would have had a photo reference just set out. Interior of the bar, exterior of the bar. And then he would just build it. He probably has one for this overhead shot right here. I love this.
Juggernaut.
Showing Juggernaut right there where they foreshadow him there.
And Celine.
I have almost a hard time. It must be because of the smoke in the bar. I have a hard time believing Wolverine didn't sniff him out as soon as he walked in. You had to, like, who is that dude the size of a VW bus over there? You know, yeah. I mean, how did he not recognize that? But probably because of the smoke is why he didn't pick it up right away. But this is just a great interweaving of character and this little splash of action of what comes to it. The dialogue can be a bit overbearing at times, but it's all in service to everything that's happening. This is I like the way that he uses this kind of a sketchy style here. It almost looks like radar sense or something, you know, where they're showing that his scent is zeroing in between, you know, the sketchiness of the lines becoming clearer and the color, you know, using this monochromatic background and the splash of other colors here to bring you over to Juggernaut.
When he identifies him, he goes, And the Juggernaut was that character when he showed up, it was like, uh-oh. You know, he was one of those characters that you don't see a lot in comics. When they show up, you're in fear.
Nothing can stop the Juggernaut. So I knew that from the cartoon, but I didn't know much about him in the comics, if anything at all. But this is great. This is just classic, anything you would see in a bar. You know, a guy accidentally spills his beer, starts a fight, Juggernaut gives him a push, Colossus turns into metal. And it's strange to me that they made this work, but it took so much build up, so much layering, and the laying of the foundation of emotional framework to get to this point where they could have basically a superhero, supervillain fight. And these guys aren't in costume. There are no other stakes. It's just a pure brawl and pure emotional payoff. But it's just classic. You see all the standard tropes: the thrown chair smashing against the wall, duck, just great little beats. I mean, Romita is so good in this.
And I know this issue so well because he goes, Nightcrawler is basically saying, "Hey, we gotta stop this. That guy at the bar doesn't have a chance." And we're gonna go, no. If it's anything, it's gonna be the other way around. It's something I'll plan on doing myself.
Yep.
He keeps him back from running in.
Yep. It's what the boy deserves. What I was planning to do to him myself.
Right.
Yep. So this is classic. This is a good little mix of boxing here. You can tell Romita is a boxing fan. So You've got Colossus doing a little bobbing and weaving, using some head movement to
Uppercut.
duck under the hook. And yeah, Colossus coming back with the Liefeld uppercut.
Liefeld uppercut.
Trademark copyright. Liefeld uppercut. Pow! Good stuff. Now here, B-plot. Sneaking into B-plot right here with Selene being introduced.
Yep.
Yeah, gotta love that Claremont, man. I thought this was funny when I was actually looking at this. Looking back at this, where he's ripping up the bar, and you got this great ad placement over here where he's bursting through the wall. So you have this explosion of wood on both sides, so it creates this kind of a mini spread there.
And here, and Colossus still doesn't know who he is because he's not in his. He's only seen him in the uniform with a big helmet.
Still doesn't know who he is, though. He should, by then have an idea because he's like, I punched this guy, and he's still standing here. He didn't turn into pink jelly,
I'm tired of you, X-Men.
But very simple, big man punches, swings, Hulk smash, kind of bottom fist there, smashing down. I like how they slowly ratchet up the action, and they break out the grabbing the environment and using it as weapons. Colossus grabs the post supporting the ceiling, I guess, and then Juggernaut one-ups him by grabbing the whole bar, though Colossus could have done that. But that's just great storytelling, the way they're slowly ratcheting it up. Here's where the Juggernaut returns the compliment.
Boom.
Good stuff. Think he's down. Petey shows that fighting spirit. Comes swinging back. Smashes him from behind. They're trading blows. This is all good stuff. I mean, it's nothing overly technical, but you could easily see something like body blows in here. Imagine bobbing and weaving and all this kind of stuff. Using this open panel, it lends a lot of movement and dynamism to that particular panel. And then,
but you can kind of tell that you can see Colossus is overpowered.
Yes, the entire time. I mean, he's fighting on the back foot. Now, how much of a classic ad is that?
Shh. You need to buy my book because my friend Luke Cage, the angry black guy, is going to come and say something to you if you don't. I don't even think the other page is not even in there, is it?
No, they were in different issues. The one with Luke Cage, the angry black guy. Well, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about it like that. Why are black people so angry, man? What is up with that?
At least in comic characters they are. All the comic characters are Luke Cage, except for Black Panther.
There's a first for me. The coup de grace outside of Bugs Bunny. I had no idea.
Who said that? Except for writers.
No idea what that was.
I used to say coup de grace when I was a kid.
Yep.
Or coup de grace.
Bugs Bunny would say the coup de gracie. And this is classic, like Han Solo, Juggernaut.
Yeah, here's the money for the bar and just tore up.
Throws the money roll. And then we have the moral lesson, and Colossus is like, you didn't support me. And Wolverine.
We're supposed to be teammates.
Logan reminds him, well, just like you did Kitty. You weren't there for her. You were thinking about yourself. So classic stuff. Classic, great emotional payoff. Great little teaser here at the end.
Sienkiewicz.
Another brilliant Bill Sienkiewicz piece there. Great little ad.
The master.
Yes. This was Chris Claremont at his best. He was rolling full steam on two different awesome books at the time. He had Bill Sienkiewicz making at the time what was, one of Marvel's more sophisticated books. I mean, New Mutants, and along with Daredevil and whatnot, and then of course X-Men.
One of the things about this issue and what the X-Men make it so compelling was they would lose.
They would lose.
They had times when, and this is an issue when the hero literally lost the fight. Mm-hmm. Well, they always let Colossus lose the big ones. He lost against Gladiator during the the Phoenix. The Death of Phoenix story. Mm-hmm. But at times, they would take an L. And that was so rare in comics.
Barry Windsor Smith there, but I had it in part of the stack. But this was my X-Men. They were weird and scary and kind of sexy. I mean, I never understood this character.
Morlock.
I kept looking at these on the shelf, and I was just like, what is happening here? It's so weird.
Oh, this is a classic one.
Yeah.
That picture there almost is it like a homage to like the Burn one when he's ripping this tree stump out? And
very similar. I kind of missed that costume. I kind of liked it. Okay, for Colossus, it was kind of his It's like his formal wear a little bit. Yeah, and Rogue just had the worst hair. That was one of the things about Romita Jr. is his designs were maybe a little bit too contemporary, you know? I mean, because in the early 80s, you know, all the designers were on cocaine and hairstyles were a mess, fashions were a mess. So when he started bringing some of that mess into comics, you know, it was just a little bit scary. I mean, This is what cocaine people would do to their hair. It took a while to get used to Aurora like this, Mike Mignola doing.
A lot of people love that. I mean, I can see why artists love the Mohawk Storm, but I remember it was really shocking when reading it as a kid.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Rachel, I hate her hair. I mean, she's got that weird
buzz cut.
Yeah, and a rat tail. I mean, what are we looking at here? You know, and the whole Warlock character is just weird, weird.
You know, Claremont would do a lot of subtext in terms of a lot of the X-Men were gay, but they couldn't let you know they're gay. Like Rachel was, I always heard was gay, and maybe that's like the buzz cut.
Okay, look at this. This is some great teaser stuff. Just setting up the next issue. They were just great at this stuff, you know. Oh no, Professor X. Oh no, what happened? It would get me because then my buddy, I'd be like, let me see the next issue. He'd be like, I don't have that one. I'm like, I gotta find out what happened. Is Colossus dead? Did Professor X die? So anyways, there we go. I'm laying these out again. Just a little rest in power for Dan Green. You know,
classic.
Thanks for your expertise. Thanks for your contributions. And these were major building blocks for our childhood and our superhero fandom, if you will.
Yeah, this was back when I went to throws of reading comics as a kid.
It pulled me right into it.
Like 168, 169.
Okay.
Like my first X-Men issue was Professor Xavier is a jerk.
Yeah, I read that one without the cover. It had been ripped off and it was in that box.
Yours too?
No, his, my friend's.
I said yours too? That's a classic cover. That's a great cover.
Yeah, my copy currently has the cover, but his at the time, I had no idea what the cover looked like because it was ripped completely off. But
I didn't understand why he was a jerk. You know, because he had made the decision, you got to go to the New Mutants.
But all
You're
good
only
stuff.
14.
Another scary, weird image. Great introduction for Nimrod when they introduced him at the time. And here he is throwing Juggernaut around. You're like, oh my God, this builds on the previous, well, I guess it's 10 issues earlier now at this point. But
well, technically, I don't know if they just had the Hellfire Gala in the current X-Men book.
For the new stuff.
Nimrod just showed up and Juggernaut's there. And they actually have a round 2.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Well, we'll have to take a look at that.
Somebody fastball specials him, maybe Gene, with telekinesis at Nimrod.
Okay.
I don't have the issue, I just heard about it. But
so there you go.
Boom.
So Phil K, tell people where they can find you on the interwebs.
You can find me on Twitter. You can look up FatJitsu, FATJITSU on Twitter. On
X, now known as
X. That's right. Yes. I'm sorry.
X-Twitter.
It's not Twitter anymore. It's
what about on Threads?
I haven't been on Threads yet. I haven't started Threads yet. Apropos, since we have the X-Men.
Yes, indeed.
And then, which goes on? X. Can't call it Twitter anymore.
X and Threads, yep. But you can find all those links down below. Again, like, comment, subscribe. Give us some feedback on what you like about these breakdowns, or if you have suggestions for any other future fights you'd like to see broken down.
Especially classic X-Men fights. They have some classic ones in the X-Men.
They do. There's some in this pile that you might see make a return. That is for certain.
And one of the few ones that really was about someone other than Wolverine. That Colossus, right?
Yep. So till next time, denizens.
Next time.
Mate.